Um, okay, we can go ahead and begin. Good afternoon to all of you. Um, Hopefully you guys enjoying the cold. It's pretty nice out. Yeah. Okay, so as far, of course, logistics, there's really nothing to talk about. There has no been any updates since we last met, meaning in terms of assignments being released or anything to be discussed. So one thing that I wanted to note is that um, the resources for the free book that we do have is a little bit older than what is currently out there. So this is edition 2, and the book that is currently out is edition 5, although it's the same book. Okay. And that is it. So today I'm going to give an intro lecture, we're going to speak about some notions about privacy and security. I think this is a good lecture to get everyone back, give you a recap of what's going on, and then we can start chapter 1, starting from next week. Okay, make sure you complete the course expectation and survey. That is very important. So that is just to make sure that you're enrolled and you're active for the course. Any questions before we begin? Any comments? Okay, we can go ahead and start. So a lot of what will be discussed is going to be included in chapter 1 as well. So just that you guys know, there's going to be a lot of acronyms. Don't get frustrated. I think as we go throughout the semester, you will kind of get the idea of them. Just before we start, I had a question in the prior days about any software that we'll use in class. So any hands-on demonstration that we'll do in class, I'll start from the beginning. Whether installing the software, that's what I typically like to do. Whether it's using Eustace and Eustace, the regular server, or Eustace 3, kind of like the GUI that we will be using. I like to also explain that, so there's nothing for you to worry in terms of that. Okay, so our lecture for today is going to be about foundation of privacy and security. Obviously, we're going to speak about principles, some notions, threats, and protective mechanisms that can be used or that are out there. This comes back every time that any desk connecting. That's fine. So our outline for today's lecture, I'll give an introduction to computer security. So you should have a foundational idea after leaving this lecture about computer security. We'll also talk about threats and vulnerabilities. As I mentioned, I think in the earlier lecture that we had on Tuesday, is that we want to kind of have a distinction between those and kind of know what threats are and vulnerabilities are. I'll give you some examples that are included in the book, that are known, that you're all aware of, and I'll have some real world examples that have happened before. Foundation of security, I think everyone has heard or kind of has an idea of the CIA triad. There's these 3-letter words. I think there's a lot of them. There's the triple A's, there's CIA triad. So we'll talk about all of those as well. Attacks and defenses, some current attacks that could be vulnerable, and defenses against those attacks. And always keep in mind, a good defense system or a good robust system is a layer of different defenses. And we will talk about that as well. And then that's it. I will conclude and let you guys go. Before you go, we will take attendance very quick and you should be on your way. Okay, so the objective is that we're going to cover the basic notions of security and systems across dimensions that could be across multiple operating systems that we could have. So we know that computer security itself is as a risk assessment and field of study. So we must there's a dedicated field for computer security. I mean, several classes, even jobs that have been that you guys can obviously after you graduate explore. We'll talk about security design principles and models. We want to understand the novel principles and the current models that are there. And then we talk about the CI tried, which is confidentiality, integrity, and availability, how to make sure that we must and ensure to contain these three main, I would say, objectives such that our system is secure. So the goal is to reinforce core knowledge in security and privacy studies. We'll talk about grasping the fundamental concepts, learn the core principles, recognize threats, such that we can identify common threats or agree upon these common threats, and then understand how to use the principles to kind of mitigate these threats or prevent them from happening. So the CI tried, obviously the C is going to be for confidentiality, is to make sure that access is restricted to authorized users. And to give you an example of that, obviously all of us now have personal users, whether it's kind of for a service that we're accessing, for example, like Netflix, it could be your UCF account here. We must make sure that it is confidential and the access is only restricted to us users. Integrity, we want to make sure that modifications are only limited to authorized users. And we know that we can do that by hashes and checksums, digital signatures as well, which we will discuss today. Data must be available to us. So we must make sure that in case of an attack or in case of a system outage or a system being down, we want to make sure that the information is available to those authorized users and also available at that current time. So a question that arises is that could it be a challenge to provide a balance with all of these? And yes, there could be a challenge because we know that strong security or having a stronger security often reduces performance. And to give you an example, kind of outside, maybe when we speak a little bit about networking, when we add those multiple routers, multiple switches, or middle boxes that could appear in our topology, that slows down performance, that could, the typical performance for the actual users. At the same time, if we have weaker security, that increases the risk. So some challenges is throwing a key, cryptography, public key or private key. If that key is lost or exposed, that protected data, the ciphertext data can be accessed or can be accessible to these malware actors. Storing a key on the machine, storing keys on the machine can be a vulnerability, meaning that that system can be reached upon, meaning that it could be stolen through malware unauthorized access and transferring data in the plane. So we want to make sure that data is getting sent and being encrypted without being intercepted or altered by these attackers. And one known attacker is man in the middle, where the attacker will try to intercept the information that is being transferred from one user to another, maybe from a user to a server. So to reduce the idea that, to reduce the risk of having these kind of threats and vulnerabilities is we want to learn what threats are, we want to learn what vulnerabilities are, and we want to know what mechanisms are there to reduce and prevent threats. Are you guys using, so I know that everyone has laptop either here or home. What are some preventive, or you could say preventive, maybe softwares that you guys are using to prevent your own local machine from any type of attacks like that?
Antivirus.
Antivirus? Which one? Malwarebytes?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Anyone else? Question is about if you're using any type of software, any type of program and application that is protecting your own local machine from threats such as that. Yeah. Google Drive? Yeah, Google Drive is a headache. I think when we use Google Drive, obviously because it has a cloud, so we uploaded our data over there to be shared, and then we wanted to download the data, and it couldn't be downloaded because it really kind of detects the even benign applications that we classified as benign. Google Drive went and said these are malicious, so it is pretty strong. Want to say something?
I would say, well, if you have Windows 11, you should have one already because it comes with it.
Yes, that is right. The Windows Defense System, or whatever that is. A lot of you guys are Windows users.
Mostly.
Any Max? Okay, but we wanted to say something too, right?
Oh, Bitdefender.
Oh, Bitdefender is good. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so yeah,
Well, I haven't.
Move your
what?
Web
Web boot?
root.
Okay. Is that like an extension? Web browser extension?
Now,
Okay, that's good. That's good, yeah. So those are all kind of like mechanisms, you could say, preventive kind of ways that we can prevent against those threats. So threats can be any circumstances that can cause harm and kind of have a violation of a security that includes and to think about is we want to know who might attack, what assets, what resources might be used, and have kind of an attack tree that kind of demonstrates this and what goal they have, when and where and why they might attack. So if we understand all of these and we can differentiate between vulnerabilities and threats, we can kind of block or put some sort of control to block this from happening. So here, let's understand vulnerabilities and threats more. So we want to understand the risks and weakness. So here's a side-to-side table of a threat and vulnerability. One example of a threat is that the adversaries might install keyloggers in HR to steal social security numbers. The vulnerability is something that we could kind of improve our system, but we haven't done yet. So that is HR computers don't have antivirus software. Thieves can break into labs, physical. It could be physical. It could be a physical threat. So break into the labs and steal the machines. Our locks are easy to pick. So we must make sure that our buildings, and I think there is some buildings that we have here within HEC or any building that are well protected. Meaning you will have an RFID tag that only allows access to that specific room. Employees may release confidential data to competitors. I think I read an article, statistical article about that, meaning I think 60% of attacks come from uneducated employees that we have, such that they don't know really what they're dealing with, or maybe they're lacking educational or kind of training. So employees don't understand what info is. We could have an employee that could sabotage the business for maybe some personal motive or competitive motive. So businesses does not have background checks on employees. I think everywhere we apply to now has background checks. Here's an example, kind of a little bit from my research. So this is another example of a security or privacy security risk that could happen. And this is kind of to relate to Android applications. And typically all applications, once you download the application, you have to give or kind of grant or allow those permissions to be granted such that they can access certain resources within your phone. And those resources that you are given to those applications or developers is for the functionality of the app. So here we have an example of an app. This could be a flashlight app. And once you download, you are granting permissions. And those permissions, for example, like access on location, does not really make sense for an app, such as the flashlight application. So that could lead to surveillance risks, such that developers will know or kind of have an idea of where you are. So improper permissions can result in data leaks, unauthorized access, and privacy violations. So some apps over request permissions that raises privacy and security risks. This is a real world example that had happened in 2020, and this is a vulnerability with Zoom 0-day or zero-day vulnerabilities could happen, meaning that usually attackers would attack systems right after an update has happened to exploit kind of these attacks that have been not updated or not robust just yet. So the Zoom 0-day is the type of attack that had happened, or you could say the vulnerability within that attack is a privilege escalation vulnerability. So the users or the attackers can gain more system permissions than intended. So there was a flaw with the system, flaw with the security system, such that the Zoom installer for Windows or for Windows specifically, actually, is that allowed these attackers to gain system level access by replacing files during installation. and this is by modifying the UNC path. So the Zoom windows would automatically trust the files within the system or within the directory without verifying them. Why this matters, it could be used to take over the entire system during software installation. Why it makes it a vulnerability is that there's a flaw in the design of the software and permission checking. So poor design, poor security design that we have could trust user accessible locations without validation, and the broken permission model that has been set by the poor design allow privileged installation to install logic. Here's a step-by-step breakdown. So from an attacker point of view is that with dynamic link library to DDL, hijacking attack is that the attacker tried to place malicious DDLs in the directory where the installer would look first, the local folder that we have. So Zoom installer, any vulnerable app automatically loads those DDLs without verifying its source. So as you can see here, escalate underscore privilege that we have here is the vulnerability such that it's actually executed without system privileges. So the malicious code inside the DDL runs at the highest level. So the malicious DDL, that could be anything that is within the software of that malicious code, can disable security tools or steal sensitive information. Here's another quick one, Colonial Pipeline ransomware attack in 2021. Ransomware attacks, usually attackers would try to, for ransom, it could be money or certain information. So a little bit about this attack is that cyber criminals from the dark side who tried to launch a ransomware attack that shut down the largest fuel pipeline in the US. So assets are targeted are operational technology systems that are managing fuel transports. And I think it affected where we live here in Florida too. So the resource used is ransomware malware that was deployed through compromised VPN credentials. And the goal of that attack was financial gain through extortion. So it is a threat because it demonstrates intent to cause disruption and financial harm that can target critical information. Here's a little activity that we can have. So we're familiar with social engineering attacks, phishing attacks. In this above image, we have an email. Can take some time here. I think maybe the ones that took prior classes to me kind of seen this example to try to ruin it for the others. So we want to verify, or actually want to kind of think as a group whether this email is a phishing attack or not.
I'm gonna say yes because of the link that says click here to join or manage your appointment, which then gives whoever's taking advantage of whatever you're desiring of it to then like have malware downloaded on the computer.
That's true. That's true. We try to avoid those clicking those links. Any other flaws? Yes.
Same person sending me the email is also a guest.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's good to notice. Anything content-wise? Yes.
I would say it's coming from an email that says at google.com. There's no at google.com.
Okay, the domain. But yeah, so this is actually a phishing email, and the reasons that you guys mentioned are true. So the first one that is mentioned is the phisher made their email address appear it was sent from Google by changing the sender name, and there is a demonstration that can be done for this in class for sending an email using the server that we have here using port 25 or using the SMTP protocol to send, where you can modify the sender.
Turn it on for me. Max power.
Okay, can you go ahead and continue? Obviously, the content, I think I got an email last week, someone is passing out free iPads and PlayStations to my UCF email. So be aware of the content that is, the offer that is sent. Usually no one wants to hand out free Pixel 7 Pros. And the link that you mentioned to manage the appointments, if you hover over the page, sometimes it takes you or kind of gives you an indication where this link is taking you. Here's security attacks. and those security attacks are attempted by the adversaries, malware adversaries, to cause and damage. So through exploring the vulnerabilities in the system, so the security analysis would try to understand the damages. So whether it's theft, sabotage, espionage, tampering, and much more. So one of them is WannaCry ransomware attack, happened in 2017, affected over 200 computers worldwide. And I think they wanted ransom in terms of Bitcoin. We have Equifax that breach 2017, affected over 147 million people. And I think SolarWinds works with Equifax, so that was also attacked or allowed hackers to spy on private public organizations for months undetected. So now we kind of move a little bit to a part of the lecture where we talk about the defense systems that we have, or how we can defend against these attacks. So defenses are going to be strategies that we can counter against these attacks through specific actions. So usually there's many incident response plans, and I think there's courses dedicated for incident response plans on how we can work after an attack has happened. So obviously we try to identify the compromised machine and maybe block that machine from reaching out or connecting if it's shared in file resources, Active Directory with other machines. We want to remove the malicious code, patch the system, patch the vulnerability, and remove it. Any other defense or kind of techniques that can be done?
Train people against like social engineering.
Train people, testing, deployment, making sure that it doesn't happen again. So good defense isn't one solution; it's a layer of protection that is working together. So kind of like we have cyber threats on top, and our system resilience on the bottom, and we go through several stages to get our system to be where it's at here. So prevention, we can use firewalls, antivirus engines, and much more to kind of make sure that our design is secure, and we put access controls within that system. Detection, now there's many papers that are published, and many of these models that are being deployed kind of get worked into a GUI, kind of a detection model that can use or kind of detect these logs and kind of detect these vulnerabilities or threats. Response, so incident response plans and malware removal, and make sure that we have recovery as well, backups, patching, and system reconfiguration. Here's DID, which is kind of known as well and mentioned in the book as well as design, implement, and deploy. So we try to go through these 3 steps. So the design of a secure system must take usability into account. So users ignore inconvenient or hard to understand security measures. So we want to make sure that good security design should be both effective and user-friendly. And the DID is going to be here basically we're designing. So basically it's planning, conceptual planning, could be hands-on planning for that system. And executing the plan is to make sure that the application runs smoothly as we want and doesn't have these flaws before we get to the deploy stage. So a deployed system must be continually monitored as well after we deploy it, so to detect security breaches and to react to security breaches. And I think IDSs and IPSs are going to be good for detect and react once we get to them. So security patches must be applied when available. We move to confidentiality, part of the CIA tribe, or the notion of principle. So to avoid unauthorized disclosure of information or resources. And why the resources? Because we want to contain those resources but not being shared to those malware actors. So you are authorized, you get to read. If you're not, then you get to know. So we must set actions or kind of permissions, authorizations for those users by access control, such that they can read, view, print, or know the existence of information that is there. And everyone needs confidentiality, whether it's government, military, industry, and it now has been moved to industry, personal records, designs. Industrial espionage is a huge problem now as well. What do we need to hide? And this is the data itself. What is the data itself? It could be personal records, health, educational, financial data. It could be intellectual property, designs, source codes. Have anyone used DeepSeek when it was deployed? A lot. Yes. Yeah. And then you heard several rumors after, right? It was just like a knockoff ChatGPT. So yes, and government communication and infrastructure details is important, customer database, logs, research data, academic scripts, or maybe the existence of data itself. So like hidden data or systems that we could have, or private research, unreleased product codes as well. Some mechanisms for confidentiality is obviously we have encryption. So encryption, we will talk about the variations of encryptions or kind of models that we have with encryptions. When we took intro to cryptography, you would have a solid idea. So we try to always scramble the message so the content that is being read is only by those who know the secret, key or secret information. Access control, so rules and policies to limit the access to confidential information. Authentication is to determine the identity and role of each individual accessing the data. That is usually when you try to sign in your Google from another laptop or another device that has not been kind of verified, and we try to have some sort of authentication from you by sending a message or letting you know where to find it. Authorization is based on access control policies, so can a person have access to a resource, and then obviously physical security. So here's an idea that we have with encryption. This is public key cryptography, and this is just to give you a general idea is that we have the usual two, Bob and Alice, that are trying to communicate with each other. When we refer to the plain text, this is the data plain text that we do have, and we try to encrypt it such that Alice can decrypt it and read the information that's there. So asymmetric keys that we have, so we utilize a public key that is being shared between Bob and Alice, and a private key that is kept secret. So the key role is to ensure secure key distribution and the data integrity as well. So we must protect the information that is being sent and also the keys. So Bob would send a message using Alice's public key, and Alice can decrypt it with her private key. To give you an analogy out of this kind of is basically kind of like we have FedEx or Amazon. They would try to leave a package within your mailbox, and you have the private key as the homeowner such that you can access your personal mailbox. And we also have digital signatures, so we can also verify, and the purpose of that is to allow Bob to verify the messages read from Alice, and Alice encrypts with their private key, and Bob verifies with the public key. Access control is going to be basically based on rules and policies that would restrict confidential information. So we have on need-to-know basis, so identity based, such as could be the person, name, user ID, computer serial numbers like MAC addresses, could be also IPs addresses, role based, the role you're given in the organization. So I think here maybe at UCF we have ITs and we have TAs, we have GTAs. So per role, you should be only allowed to obtain information that you are given to. Authentication to determine the identity of the role. So using a combination, we really try to kind of verify something that they have, something they know, or something that they are. Also with physical authorization is we want to make sure that it's also the same, whether it's maybe you can say logical or software-wise or physical. We want to make sure that person has access to the system or to the physical location. So based on still on the key access or access control policy that we have set up. So also physical security, we try to put limits and barriers such as to those protected resources, so logs, window rooms, sound tampering material, cages, shields, and those are all kind of resourceful and kind of useful for physical security. We move on to integrity. So we're breaking each one in detail. So now integrity is to keep the information accurate and untouched. And we want to know that when data is being sent, that has not been altered, such that if it has been altered, that means there has been something that happened to the data. So the mechanisms to ensure integrity may include the following. We try to keep backups, so we save copies of data regularly, so you can restore it if something goes wrong. Checksums. Checksum is going to be basically, to give you an example, with plain TCP, the foundational of TCP use checksums such as zeros and ones, and those zeros and ones would get verified such that when it gets sent to layer 3 of the network layer, we can verify those checksums, and if a number has been flipped out of the 16-digit, we can find out if the data has been altered or that specific packet. Data correcting code, so we can store data in a unique way that is known by us, or maybe the way that we work, such as preference, or that can be spotted or fixed automatically. Availability is to make sure that the information that we have is accessible and modifiable in a timely manner or timely fashion by those who have authorization to do so. So mechanisms to ensure availability is physical protections and computational redundancy. So computer and storage devices that serve as backups in the case of failures. So now we should have an idea of the CIA tribe more in detail, kind of a foundational idea and how we can use within what each CIA kind of, you can say, category has or can give us. So we talk a little bit about security models, and they're going to be models that are prepped to quickly be ready for attacks, contain them quickly, and has a recover strategy. So it is important such that we can minimize the damages, and if damages happen, we try to minimize them. So it's kind of like having multiple plans or multiple layers, and that is essential for all organizations. So to build security systems, models are going to be needed. So the models are going to address main question, and it's really depending on the deployment of that security system. And we want to know a question that can be asked is what secure properties to assure, and whether it's confidentiality as prior or kind of a high level tier or integrity or availability. Principle of easy penetration is that an attacker usually avoids the strongest defense and try to attack the weaker, less protected areas. So usually the attackers don't really behave the way that you want them to. So we move on to attack trees, and attack trees are very useful. I think everyone has heard of trees or attack trees. So the attack trees is kind of giving us a way, an in-depth way with tree and kind of leaves, such that we can understand how the system can be attacked. So we want to know what are the different ways or maybe mechanisms that the system can be attacked. If we understand this system or answer this question, we can design proper mechanism for countermeasures, so the defenses. So attack trees is going to show systematically how the system can be attacked or defended, and that obviously comes with cost, various attacker objectives or kind of goal. So the attack trees have logical nodes and /OR. The OR is going to be different ways such that we can attack the system, and only one needs to work through the main node or the foundational node to the bottom node. And means that all the steps must be completed to reach that goal. So here, this figure depicts that obviously we have an attack goal, and that is the main node, and we have edges and nodes. Those edges are going to be connected to various attack objectives, and we have attack objective 1 that has several attack methods attacking several assets within the system. We can also examine the safe and unsafe attacker /owner abilities and assign values to those nodes, whether it is possible or impossible. So the OR nodes are going to be possible if any child is possible, meaning any further or below nodes are achievable, and the AND nodes are possible only if all children are possible. So a full path of impossible from top to bottom is a possible attack that we can have. So once that is found, we can design defenses. So here's an example of that. We have blue nodes, or the blue boxes that we have are OR nodes, and the green ones are ends, meaning that both need to kind of be achieved such that for the attack to work. So, for example, if we have an attack goal is to open a safe within certain maybe infrastructure, is that we have several kind of attack objectives or ways, and install them properly, meaning here in this specific example, it's impossible by maybe the team of the infrastructure. So we have learn combo. It is possible that leads us to two different kind of paths: get combo from target or find a right combo. So the attackers we try to want to think like the attacker such that we can make our system more robust. So getting the target, getting the combo from the target can be with can have various objectives as we see below, such as bribe, eavesdrop, blackmail, or threaten. And eavesdrop here is to listen to combo. Here is possible because that system is secured from this perspective, and get target to state code is an impossible. So sorry, impossible and possible to listen to the combo, obviously with eavesdropping. So even with many attacks are impossible, successful attacks are still possible if we can find at least one path from the top to the bottom that could work. Now, also cost can be associated with each attack objective, and that could kind of give us an idea of how much assets, or kind of when it comes to financial, how much can be lost if certain attacks are exploited or achieved. And the same idea here, if it goes to the bottom, each release step kind of costs us more, meaning that we have to do a lot for kind of make a debrief back to the system to make it more stronger. We have other security concepts such as insurance, how we can trust the system to do what it's supposed to do. So the goal is to have a safe, secure, and system that behaves correctly. And we have obviously a lot of security audits, any ways to achieve that. Trust management depends on policies, so the rules and expectations. I think clear policies and rules has to be set by the infrastructure for everyone, meaning the users and actually the workers. So a system designer can say users can listen to songs but can't copy them. Permission is what is allowed. So after buying the song, the app lets you play it but not share it. And protections are the enforcers, such that the system prevents users from downloading, copying the song. Here we have another concept, kind of anonymity, or kind of to be anonymous is to ensure that the person that person or that system identity is not disclosed. And I think you guys have using that a lot, maybe in Discord or Stack Overflow, any public websites you guys have used. You can just put a username such as Cool Gamer or something like Shadow Wolf, whatever that could be. So mechanisms for that is to either use a nickname, an alias, that is not your real name. So kind of these images show the real identity, where we can be anonymous and can have something in between, such as using an alias. Anonymous communication, we can use techniques to hide the origin and destinations of the messages, maybe by using VPNs. We can use Tor. Have anyone heard of Tor? Almost all of you. Okay, yes. So the onion routers we can use to kind of hide where the message is, the message original destination to that the original host sending that message to that destination is hidden by full path. So onion routers can be deployed, I think, for anyone that is interested in doing so. So it is a network kind of designed to help make sure that communication between users are anonymous over the internet. So usually we have a Tor client. This could be a client that is you. You have an entry guard thing You see the onion sign up, kind of figure up there because it's kind of a layered way until the message gets to the actual destination. So everything in the green lines is encrypted by Tor, such that you go through multiple layers to the destination, and Tor kind of guarantees that it is your information, such as your IP address, your location, and that link is encrypted. What is not encrypted is that last message. Also something to note, similarly to algorithms that we use in networking, like link state or whether it's distance vector, some algorithms only know the step. They don't know the full path to make decisions for the packets to move forward or to be rerouted. And that's what happens exactly to as well. So instead of sending data directly, we can move directly from you to a website. You send it through multiple volunteer-run servers around the world that is achieved by Tor, and each server knows the step before and the one after, never the full path. So without Tor, your website, you and your website is identified or exposed. Without Tor, you will go through multiple layers, relays that make sure that the website identity is also hidden. Other security concepts that we have, authenticity. So we make sure that statements, policies, and permissions are genuine. So mechanisms, authenticity is digital signatures, and we will talk about digital signatures in depth. So it's going to be a cryptographic stamp that kind of proves a message or document is real and untampered. So kind of like a digital version of a handwritten signature, but it's more secure. Also provide proof of origin so that the sender cannot deny they have sent it later. So to wrap up, I think this is kind of an intro level lecture for the next couple of weeks for our next couple of chapters, such that everyone has a foundation kind of or is exposed to the future concepts that will be discussed in class, such that we know that security relies on the CIA triad, confidentiality, integrity, and availability. We now understand what threats and vulnerabilities are, and there's many more to be explored. And attacks help us use to build better defenses. We talked about real-world examples, and those real-world examples might not be the most recent. There is recent vulnerabilities. I think to find out vulnerabilities, you can visit a website called CVE, and this kind of reports all the vulnerabilities within. I can show you that after we finish this. We leave the slides. Cryptography and tools like digital signatures protect the data and trust, and they achieve the CIA triad. And concepts like attack trees, assurance help model and manage systems security or more being secure. So I just want to show you this in case that you're interested. So this kind of websites kind of reports all the vulnerabilities that have been happening on a day-to-day basis, most recently. And we have kind of used data sets. They have many data sets for you if you're interested in working, maybe for your senior design project, any project that you want to explore, whether it's like a personal motive or group motive, class motive, is that we collected those CVEs and we kind of had a classification for the ranks of these vulnerabilities, how heavily infectable it is, if it's on low tier, if not. And we also use semantic models, large language models, LLMs, to kind of have a summary for each vulnerability that do exist on here. Vulnerability for researchers. This is just more overviews. Let's see here. No, we don't want that. Go back. Trying to get to their directory where they have these vulnerabilities. So if you want to report, has been a minute. Yeah, so usually every kind of every vulnerability comes with a CVE ID, and this is kind of an ID that is unique set by them, and the record kind of gives you details of that vulnerability, and sometimes it provides more information, less information, depending on what is being reported. But that is useful to know or have. And they have certain workflows that can be used, and that's that. If you guys are interested, I can put that as a link under the module. Other than that, any questions from anyone? Concerns? Yes.
You know, in the pipelines have they got paid?
Have they got what?
Paid.
Paid? I'm not really sure. I know that tech has been there. Can follow up on that maybe after class. We can see. That's interesting. Anything else? Okay, so if you're on Zoom, the lecture is going to be recorded and uploaded for you all. And if you don't have any questions, you may log off. We will just take attendance very quickly. Yeah, Matthew, I saw your message. I can check on your email very soon. So just make sure that you email me if I don't reply by end of day. Okay? Thank you so much. Thank you all.